Thank you very much for hosting us. It's been a wonderful and very enlightening few days in Istanbul. We are very excited to be here. And in particular, when we see the connection between what we are doing globally to build bridges in different economies through design, and to see the role that Turkey plays in that same space, connecting different parts of the world. It's a very important role, and one that we are pleased to be connected with. There was an interesting article we read on the way over, which focused on innovation in Turkey. And it coincides quite nicely with what I was hoping to share, which is a few thoughts about the role of design as a catalyst for innovation. In particular, by bringing both sides of the brain together. We tend to be too focused on one side or the other. And it is so important to bring these two together in ways that we see all over in Istanbul, in the architecture, in the commerce, in the products, and in the people. And we feel very strongly that this needs to find its way into the education system all over the world. I would like to share with you a little bit about DMI. I'm very fortunate to be leading this organization for just 1 year. But globally, we have over 25,000 members from many organizations, large companies, startups, consultants, architects, educators from all over the world, including many here in Turkey. Our business is to help with peer-to-peer education, to help people educate each other and share ideas through conferences, through our magazine, and through our website. It's very important for us to have a strong community, and we appreciate this opportunity to connect with the community here in Turkey. Our members are designing products. They're designing experiences, online and off. They are designing brands, because at the end of the day, brands are relationships. So they're helping design those relationships and systems of software and platforms and business models themselves. Much of my career has been involved in designing new business models for companies to help them emerge from the 20th century to the 21st century. It requires very different thinking. We are no longer an industrial economy. Industrial economies are about efficiency. We are now in the relationship economy. It is about connection and collaboration and creativity. And that's where we are focusing our energy, designing new business models with open ways of thinking, with social connections as a very important way to advance ideas and to advance the economy. In fact, in recent research done by IBM, CEOs said the most important characteristic for the CEO in the future is creativity. This gentleman now runs the company that owns Frog Design. He left IBM and went to a creative business. He saw that as the future. And you see it in companies like Nest. This little device was started by a small company with 3 people, 1 designer, 1 business person, 1 engineer. They were around for 3 years. They were just sold for $3 billion to Google in 3 years. But it shows the power of working together across those disciplines. We have spent a lot of time at DMI researching, really understanding how people are investing in innovation. Booz and Company does an annual study of R&D. And the companies that spend the most money on R&D are not that successful. There is no correlation between the percentage of sales invested in research and development and success. The success comes from those companies who are using innovation and in particular design to drive innovation more efficiently. In this study, people nominated the most innovative companies. In this top 10 list, you see they outperformed all of the big spenders on R&D because they are more efficient. When you look at the amount of money they spend, it is much lower as a percentage of sales. This is because they are efficient. 9 of the top 10 are also DMI members. The research that Booz does also looks at how these companies innovate. And we did further research by interviewing each of these 10 companies. With Booz, they talk about 3 different ways companies innovate. They seek needs by understanding the user very deeply. Or they watch the market. They survey the landscape and they look for opportunities. They are market-oriented. Or the third one, they are technology-driven. Many of these companies that are technology-driven get very involved in technology and they get very deep and may not necessarily uncover the best opportunities because they are following the technology and not the user. They're not focused on the relationship, they are focused on the product. Design-driven companies are the ones that focus on the needs of the user. Very deep empathy to understand how to relate to the user, what they value, and how to make it easy to use. This is the single most important secret to success with these companies. We've actually created a way to measure this success too. Something we call the Design Value Index. When we look at companies that are need seekers, we look at how they are using design, if they are increasing their investment in design. We look at if they are supported from the top of the company down and from the bottom up. And we score them. And then we compare them to the rest of the market. And over 10 years, these companies have outperformed S&P companies by a factor of 228%. Huge difference. Very important to think about these companies and how they're using design, not just to make beautiful objects, because design is not pretty. Design can be chaotic, it can be messy, it can be challenging. When you use it strategically, it is about opening up your eyes to new possibilities. And that is what scares many companies who are focused on efficiency of production and not efficiency of problem definition, because they look at a problem in a very focused way rather than looking at the range of options early on. And it's important when you are working with your customers and enhancing your relationship with those customers that you are listening to them. It is a two-way conversation. Business is personal at the end of the day. People say it's not personal, it's just business. That's not true. Business is very personal. It's about relationships. It's about trust. It's about providing what people need and understanding why they need that. Even companies as large as IBM, what saved them in the 90s was their relationships. They took those relationships and they strengthened them, and they provided much more service, much more value than just pieces of hardware. They designed new software. They designed new services. They helped solve new problems because they listened intently to their customers. And these relationships helped save them. In the same way, Apple has developed very deep relationships with its customers. People are very strong advocates for this brand in a very different way, in a very personal way, one-to-one. Now, designing these relationships is the single most important opportunity for business today, because each relationship has multiple points that they touch. And every one of those touch points is an opportunity for an exchange of trust and an exchange of value. I will show you an example of this from a company called Zipcar. Has anybody heard of this company? A couple of people? Yeah. Zipcar is a next generation of car rental business. It makes a vehicle available to you wherever you are for as long as you need. You don't have to own it. You become part of the community. So it's a very complicated relationship and a very important one to design each touch point. So you see the business supports all of those touch points, but the most important aspect of that business is designing those touch points in a way that people really feel the value. They feel they're being supported. They feel that their needs are being anticipated. And Zipcar has done a great job of doing this. They created a whole new business model from this, designing the experience. What's interesting about designing the experience is it requires organizations to change. They can no longer be silos of product and service and sales and marketing. They have to all be connected because the customer is touching us in so many new ways, online, offline, on the phone, in services. This requires that we rethink the role of design in organizations to integrate organizations. We used to think about design just as a service for function, for aesthetics, but increasingly when you design an experience with multiple touch points, you change the organization itself. You make that organization a 21st century company. You break down silos. You break down walls. And that's where design increasingly has become a value in many organizations. And in some, it goes still further to become a strategic resource to help uncover new needs and new market opportunities the company may not have seen. Divergent thinking in strategy becomes an important role for design also. Because when you are in touch with the user, you find new needs that may not be in the pathway of the company from its origin. But it becomes an important opportunity to serve that relationship. Otherwise, you can lose a relationship, which is also happening very frequently. Many companies are being disrupted by startups who are focused on a specific need for a customer. Many examples are happening in retail, online retailers that are curating products and sending them to you to look at. A good example of this year, I did my year-end holiday shopping. Most of it was done online with two retailers that didn't exist 2 years ago. They were not around. I spent very little in retail stores because these people knew what I was looking for. They curated well-designed collections of products that demonstrated they knew me. They knew our relationship, and they provided great value. We have a way now to help companies score themselves in these areas too. This is a tool, a scorecard, that has come out of our research. When we talked to those 10 companies I mentioned before, we look at how they're performing in each of these 3 areas. And we created this scorecard to help other organizations see how they match up in their performance, so they can profile themselves as a service, as a change in the organization, or as a resource to help with strategy. And they can score themselves and determine where they would like to be in the future. And the members in the DMI community are helping them improve to get there, to provide more value, and ultimately, in some cases, to be part of the design index in the future. Research that we did with these 10 companies, we found they had 4 things in common. I mentioned before they have support from the top, from the C-level executives. Companies like P&G, A.G. Lafley, he learned his sensitivity to design by traveling in Asia. He worked there for 7 years and really got to understand the culture, the role of design, and the power of experience that he took back to P&G and helped infuse that in the company. And they delivered dramatic returns the whole time he was the CEO. His successor was not as focused on experience and you saw what happened with their performance. Their stock price declined. Thank you. They brought him back. I interviewed him for our magazine just before he went back to talk about the importance of design and why he made it a priority. And I will share the magazine with anyone who would like a copy. I will email it to you. So that was the most important priority. The second is the organization has a center of design excellence to help define the brand and the vocabulary and the nature of the relationship. Something that happens as a central role in the organization. The third thing is also pushing design down close to the customer in each division. So they are listening to the customer, and they're also able to connect the different legs of the stool to make that company more responsive to its customers. And then the fourth point was the one that I made before about experience design as a catalyst for change and how it helped connect multiple parts of the organization. One recent example is Microsoft. Very big company, for technology became a laggard. They fell behind when the internet emerged. They have now used design to connect multiple parts of the company. They went from 7 divisions to 4. They streamlined the company. They now have one vocabulary for all their software in the new Windows platform that is better than Apple, better than Google and many others, because it is very much alive and connects all the different devices and all the different parts of your life in new ways. So design was a catalyst there to streamline the organization and help bring them into the 21st century. And the way that happens with design thinking is in these 4 ways. It begins with empathy, something that you have with a good friend. A good relationship is an empathetic one. I'm listening, I'm responding, and we share trust and values. And this is something that some companies are good in research in doing this. Many designers are good at this. Many business leaders are good at this. But too many of us do not focus on this. It's the most important aspect of the new relationship economy. The second one is the obvious one. You always think design, creativity. So that is more obvious, but also having a disciplined approach to creativity that combines divergent thinking with convergent thinking. So you are broadening your inputs and your ideas, and then you are converging around proper analysis based on the user needs. It is these processes that make companies more efficient with their R&D investment. The other aspect of design thinking, the final one that many people don't think of with design, because design, people think about its creativity, it's hard to control, it's wide open, but at the end of the day, if you use design thinking methods to come up with ideas, many ideas early, visualize, prototype, and test them and refine them, you fail early, you fail often, you come to a more effective result more quickly. when you compare that with the traditional way of innovation, where you follow a linear path, and you get all the way down the road, and you may realize the opportunity is over here. Whereas with design thinking, if you are rapidly prototyping and iterating, you can wind up closer to the solution more efficiently with lower risk. But this takes a new form of education and a new form of thinking in business. Moving from a T-shaped person, people with very deep understanding of one discipline, to broadening their arms so they can communicate. If they come from science, they need to communicate that science. If they come from engineering, they need to be able to share that. If they come from design or business, they have to broaden their arms to embrace more of the people they work with to be more efficient. In our research, we came up with this new competency map. These were the important characteristics for leaders in the future. And we are redesigning education with many universities now to help deliver this new set of competencies. And we are talking about creating a new kind of person, a pie-shaped person. Somebody with a foot in both camps and more flexible arms to embrace and communicate more broadly where they're working. So we feel this pie-shaped person is something that is important for all of us, to respect the disciplines we work with, to embrace them, and to learn as much as we can about each other to deepen that relationship so we work more efficiently and we can innovate more quickly. So it is the pie-shaped person that I will leave you with today. And I will share with you our design thinking issue of the magazine, and I welcome your thoughts and your questions. And my email is there. Please reach out to me, and I would very much like to hear more about what you're doing as well. I thank you very much.